sex before marriage. How would you answer the question, why should somebody consider waiting?
Well, what I don't want to do is couch that question just in terms of the benefits the person gets, because this is one of the mistakes I think we've made in the past in what's called purity culture, is wait to have sex because in marriage you'll have the best sex. That is basically saying follow God's plan because it benefits you. Now, with that said, it is interesting that religious men and women, primarily Christians, report higher levels of satisfaction in their sex lives. And that makes sense because if God is the designer of sex and we live and experience it the way he wants us to, there's a flourishing that I think is going to naturally come from this. But that's very different than saying to a young person, hey, don't have sex now, so when you get married someday, you're going to have awesome marital sex. That's like being obedient to God because of what you get out of it. And that's not what the scripture says, because it just doesn't always work out that way. What I would say is I would take a step back and I'd say, okay, what you do with your sex life is a reflection of what you do with your life as a whole. Do you want to become the kind of person that loves other people and treats them the way they ought to be treated? Do you want to be a good person that really loves people? Or do you want to be the kind of person that uses people? Because if you just want to be the kind of person that uses people, there's probably nothing I could say that could motivate you to think about what Jesus taught. But if you actually want to love people, and I think in your heart you do, then let's take a look at the life of the person who arguably lived the greatest life of sacrifice and love and see what his sexual ethic is and why. And I think what you'll discover is that Jesus can be trusted, that his teachings 2,000 years ago make just as much sense today as when he taught them. I think, so the bottom line answer your question is I would try to invite this younger person into something bigger and frame their sexuality in terms of what kind of person are you becoming? What kind of life do you want to live? And then when we see it that way, I think it changes how we approach questions of sexuality, how we use our bodies. And ultimately, the biggest motivation, scripture says, be holy because I am holy. Trust God because he's trustworthy. Be holy because God is holy. That's the ultimate motivation, whether it benefits us in life or not.